Good evening, everybody. This is Purple and Gold for Days. I am Justin in Rochester and my compatriot, Mike Castellino from the Mic'd Up Podcast. And we're just going to do a little ditty here. Did anything happen today? Any news come out, Mike, that we should be aware of that we might want to talk about? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's that the schedule release thing. I think it's kind of important.
Well, everybody's got that going on, don't they? Well, first of all, everybody, thank you kindly for joining us. Hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons if you haven't already done so. We got a couple of comments already. Skolger Soup is in the building. Thank you kindly, Skol. I am out at the bar getting a burger, but had to jump in. Absolutely. Definitely being as long as I can. Hey, that's the great thing about YouTube, Skolger Soup, is that it's on demand. So stick around while you can, and at the end of it, when you got to drive home, pick it up when you get back. It's all good, my brother. It's all good. Mick Andrews, what's going on? Thank you kindly for joining us. Mick Andrews in the house. It's just me and Mike and Mick Andrews and Skolger Soup thus far. But having said all that, I knew it wouldn't be long. There she is, Mary Fist. Skol, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. So, okay. The schedule is released officially, I think, as of now. It's been leaked for enough hours to where I think everybody and their mom has already gone through it a couple of times. But we're going to go through it again here anyway. So I'm going to start with this, Mike. Before the schedule came out and before you got to look and see, all right, in a vacuum, not knowing week 1, week 15, Monday night, Thursday night, Tuesday night, and when the bye week was, before when we just had the opponents, what did you think the Vikings record would be, or window of record? What's up, Dr. Proto? How you doing? Let me get you up there first.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
When we had seen the opponents come out, in January, I had thought, yeah, they'll probably be 10-7. And now that the schedule's out, I probably think, yeah, they'll probably be about 10-7. They didn't really change too much because, we'll get into it later, but some of the juggernauts on the schedule, it's not ideal.
Well, Mike, you weren't supposed to say anything but 10-7 so that we didn't just agree on everything, because that's about what I had them at here. I'll say it like I always do. The Vikings are one of those teams that their floor with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, just for starters. You'd have to really something had to go really wrong to win any fewer than 7 games. Now, realistically speaking, you're not going to probably get 13 wins again like we did last year. I think that would be above expectations, and that would be an absolute surprise, to say the least. But yeah, I had them at 10-7 before the schedule came out. And then when I went game by game, I'm just like, well, I'm pretty close to 10-7 here. Half the time I go through it, I end up 9-8, and half the time I end up at 11-6. So at the end of the day, that would seem to be about right. You've got 4 opponents on the schedule. We're going to go through it here, but there's 4 opponents there that everybody and their mom is going to say, well, that's going to be tough for the Vikings to win. And then you got 13 other games where realistically you are equal or better than those other 13 teams. You're obviously not going to win all 13 of them, but you have to anticipate you're probably going to lose 1 or 2, and maybe you sneak out a victory against a team you didn't expect. Let's get a couple more shouts out in the building. Doctor, how you doing? David is in the house. Thank you kindly. 17-0, bring it. I'm coming over for Scotland for the first game again. Awesome, David. You know what? I know that once the season gets closer, we'll be doing content both on this channel and the others that we're affiliated with here. I don't know anywhere close to what games I may or may not be attending, but if I'm at that opener, then we'll definitely have to meet up for a drink and a hello as well. Let's see. Well, gentlemen, that is looking through purple glass shades. 10-7 is purple glass shades? Dave?
No.
That's purple and gold glasses at 10-7? Okay, but I digress. Well, what's the biggest part of the schedule that stands out to you, Mike? I mean, when you look through it with the late bye week and the road games here, home games there, what stands out to you the most? Let's ask it that way.
I mean, it has to be the 5 primetime games, right? It has to be. I mean, Thursday night against the Eagles, then you got the Monday night games against the Bears and Niners, and then you have the 2 Sunday nighters as well. It's not ideal. It's not. I did not expect, I don't know about you, Justin, I did not expect 5 primetime games. Now, at the end of the day, you got to play when you got to play. I don't care about the time, the day. That narrative needs to die this season. We'll get into that more. If you're phased by the moment of when you're playing the day, like, come on now, that's a joke.
Well, if you told me we had 17 games at noon, I'd say, yeah, maybe we could get 13 wins. But having said that, first and foremost here, the Week 17 game against the Green Bay Packers. Finally, we get a game against the Packers in December in our building and not in Lambeau Field. But that's a prime candidate if the Vikings have already clinched or if the Packers are just absolutely just terrible. That could be a game that could get flexed out of prime time. We'll see. I also think conversely, on the opposite end, Week 18 could be one of those candidates for the Sunday night game there as well, if all the chips are on the table, so to speak. But we'll find out here shortly. Just want to get a couple more up here. Yeah, exactly. Doctor says figuring about 11 wins. Mike Sports Vibe, what's going on? Good luck to your Philadelphia 76ers. Take down those Celtics. Absolutely. But he says 10-13. All right. Better beat the Eagles. Yeah, for a guy that's Mike, correct me. You live in Philly. If I'm wrong, I believe you say you live in Philly. That's why you're a Sixers fan, I believe. But having said that, yes. Once again, week 2, the Vikings are on the road in Philadelphia. Funny how that was. No, Bob, we ain't mocking, but thanks for joining. We appreciate you. Bob is in the building. Thank you kindly. Hey, everybody, hit them like buttons if you haven't done so on your way in, or wipe your feet on the door on the way out and hit the like button there for me. But what do you think, Mike? Do you think that the Packers game is actually still going to be Sunday Night Football Week 17, or do you think that the Packers are just going to be a 3-win team at that point and nobody's going to care?
That's a good question. I think it honestly depends on the Vikings. If there's an opportunity for them to clinch, NBC will leave that alone because that's what NBC likes to do. If the game is completely irrelevant, then they'll take it out the slate. The NFL rarely flexes games. It usually has to be a really, really meaningless game across the board for them to flex it out. I doubt it. I really do. But you never know.
Well, having said that, which game are you going to – okay, take out Philly and take out Kansas City, the 2 Super Bowl teams. And let's take out San Francisco and Cincinnati, the other 2 big-time teams that we're going to play. Again, all 4 teams, of course, made their respective conference finals. Aside from the Big 4, what do you think the toughest game is? Single game.
That's a good question.
So you got the 6 against the division. You've got the 4 against the NFC South. You've got the other 3.
Detroit.
You're going to say, okay, so
Detroit.
Detroit, I'm assuming?
At Detroit. Yeah, at Detroit.
All right, I'm going to throw a curveball. I actually think the toughest game on the Vikings schedule is road Monday Night Football, or is it Sunday Night Football? No, excuse me, Sunday Night Football in Denver. Because I still believe that Russell Wilson isn't cooked. He had a bozo of a head coach. He's now got Sean Payton. Their defense is still pretty solid. That's the only thing that kept those games close last year, even though it was unbearably unwatchable, to say the least. I know, unbearably unwatchable, but I digress. I'm throwing out there, and I'll throw it out to the chat here. Outside of the Big 4, outside of Philly, San Francisco, outside of Cincinnati, who's the other one I missed? Oh, Kansas City. Outside of those 4, put it in the chat. What do you think the toughest game for the Vikings is? If it's one of the divisions games, say hold a room for me. But I'm going to go with Denver on the road, prime time. You still stick by the Lions on the road? You think it would? You still?
Yeah, the Lions would, in my opinion, I think they beat the Broncos. I personally think the Lions are the best team in the division right now. I'll say it. Heading into today, on paper. And we've seen with the Philadelphia Eagles many years ago with Vince Young, if you remember that, Justin, when they were called the Dream Team and they completely capitulated. On paper is kind of irrelevant, but as of today, the Lions are the best team in the NFC North. I think that is the hardest game taking out the Big 4, in my personal opinion. I really do.
All right. It's close. And maybe it's because I'm so sick of hearing this Lions hype right now. Listen, the Lions are up-and-coming team. What did they start off last year, 1-6? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
So we can. It's kind of like when we got down 33-0 to the Colts, and we want to talk about what a great comeback it was, and how the offense was absolutely unstoppable after their first drive, and other than Jalen Raylor running the wrong route to be intercepted, and how well the defense played in the second half. You can't have a 33-point comeback if you don't play like absolute garbage for the first half.
Yep.
So we can credit Detroit's second half of the season all we want. And yes, thank you for keeping Aaron Rodgers and the Packers out of the playoffs. We love you. But divisional favorites after the Vikings went 13-4. Listen, I know we can all say as Vikings fans, That 13-4 was a fraudulent 13-4. It was
Yes.
Okay. I've said this one before. I'll say it again. In 2021, they were 8-9. Let's say 7-9 because we're going to say that last game was
it was meaningless.
Okay, they were a 7-9 type team that had a lot of bad luck, and they were probably a 9 or a 10 win team that had a lot of bad luck going against them. This past season, the Vikings once again were a 9 or a 10 win team that had all the luck go their way. Okay, so all I'm saying is that yes, I understand that 13-4 really was a 9 to 10, maybe an 11 win team. That's fine. Detroit hasn't won this division ever. There has never been a tweet on Twitter that says, congratulations, Detroit Lions, NFC North champions. Why? Because the last time they won the division, there was no Twitter. There was no Facebook.
Was there internet?
There was internet.
The big giant screen where yeah.
I think the last time they won it, Al Gore had in fact invented the first version of the internet. And if you don't know the inside joke, that's fine, but it's an inside joke, ladies and gentlemen. So don't take it seriously. But in all seriousness, my overarching point, I like this Detroit Lions team. I think they're a solid team. I think they're going to be one of the teams that I will say is going to be in the hunt for this division and definitely a wild card spot. But to make them the favorites, I'm sorry, that's just crazy.
Oh, you think even making them the favorites is a stretch? Wow.
Yes, no, they should not be the favorites. They absolutely should not be the favorites. Now, I am consistent about it. There have been times where the Packers, who had won the division 4 straight years, there were times the Vikings were the favorite, and I said no, they should not be the favorites until they actually knocked the champs off. Obviously, in 2017, they weren't the favorites going into it, and they ended up winning it, and that's all well and good. But let me get some shout-outs here. Skol Mafia is in the house. Thank you kindly, my Skol brother, Pace Gang. Indeed, I'm going to talk to you about Pace. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about him yet. Maybe we'll get to a little bit of draft talk or the UDFAs. Davey Chains is in the building. What's going on, Davey Chains? It's got the number 11. Rest in peace to the late, great Joe Cap. My worthless opinion, the single greatest Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, the single greatest handle of all time, and your opinions are not so worthless. I will say it like that. Any other shout outs I need to do in here? Do I get them all here? Is anybody else up in there? I knew there was one more. Jock Shot. Thank you kindly for joining us. Detroit had the same record last year as they did in 2017 with less talent. We're not going to go too much on this. I just threw it out there as a comment to say, hey, put it in the comments here. Which game do you think is going to be the hardest game? And you know what? I didn't actually put any of them up here. All right, so Drop Shot says Lions is going to be the most difficult game. Any more in here? Any more? Nope. But got a new shout out here. Skol for Life is in the building. Thank you kindly for joining. We appreciate you guys. All right, Skol, y'all. About watch. Oh yeah, watch your six. Yes, Skol 76ers because I have no dog in the fight and I just don't like the Celtics. But I digress. Having said all that, okay, let's go through it. Real quick, we're not going to elaborate too much on this because at the end of the day, we had our predictions and what we thought was going to be the case before we actually knew the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you have the timing and you know how many times you're coming off a short week or a long week, week 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do we need to go too much into that or is that pretty straightforward?
I want to start it off quickly. If they don't win that game, it's the beginning of a season where we know this is going down the toilet. I'll just put it that way. That's a must win. I don't care.
All right. I'm sorry. Skol for Life. My apologies. Outside of the Big Four, outside of Philly,
yes.
Outside of Philly, KC, San Francisco, and Cincinnati, who's your toughest opponent on the schedule? I'm sorry. Outside of the Big Four. You might not have heard me say that earlier. You're right. It's kind of one of those deals. I know you don't watch college football, but when you have these non-conference games with these Power 5 schools that are playing these hyphenated colleges, and it's kind of like when Appalachian State beat Michigan, for example. There's nothing that can be gained for the power team or the favorite team. If you beat them, you're supposed to beat them. And if you lose to them, now you're in trouble. So you're right. Unless you win like 41-0 or something like that. But even then, you're still going to say, but you're supposed to beat them handily. Yeah. But you're right. Tampa Bay should be a victory. Week 1 at home. Possibly a game some of the Purple and Gold media family might be attending. Don't know yet. Just got the schedule. But week 2, I think we should give about as much time as week 1. I don't see any way the Vikings win this game. Sorry, I got to be realistic. I got to call it the way I see it. If anybody wants to say that the Vikings actually could beat Philadelphia, put it in the chat and tell me why I'm wrong. But Mike, what say you? I got to after 2.
I do want to say this. Justin, I am 99% confident they will lose that football game. But because there has to be a 1%.
Sure.
If it was to happen, it would be because of the amount of turnover the Eagles had. I do not think we're going into Philadelphia and winning on a short week. Yeah, but at the end of the day, with them losing their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, they lost a lot of key pieces of their defense. That's the only thing that could throw them off, because how early the season is, maybe. But I think it's literally next to impossible, really, if I'm being honest.
You know, I got to circle back to a couple of great comments that I missed because I was rambling on here. We're talking about Detroit being the favorites or possibly winning this division. Dr. Proto, were there automobiles even invented the last time?
Well, that'd be really sad if there wasn't, because that's Detroit. That's literally Motor City.
Burt Bell was still the commissioner. Sorry that I missed him earlier, but I had to throw him out there. All right, week 3. This is one of those 50-50 games. It's at home, so they have the advantage there. But up-and-coming quarterback Justin Herbert, the Chargers were in the playoffs and had quite a bit of a lead, and they did the same thing the Colts did and let Football Fabio come all the way back on them in a game that they absolutely kicked away due to their coaches, in my opinion. But Justin Herbert at home, week 3, coming off a loss in Philly. Granted, you'll have a 10-day break because it's a Thursday night game. What say you?
I think we should win this football game because the Chargers, they're the Vikings version of the AFC Viking version. Like, they're the AFC version of the Vikings. Except they're probably more painful because they've had 3 straight good quarterbacks. Drew Brees, Philip Rivers, and Justin Herbert. They can't get anywhere. At least we go on runs. We don't win a Super Bowl, unfortunately. But that's worse, in my opinion. Have 3 straight top 10 quarterbacks that do nothing? Like, that's brutal. I think we'll beat the Chargers. I think Brandon Stanley's kind of overrated. I don't think he's that good. Offense is Trump's defense now. And our offensive-minded head coach, Kevin O'Connell, I think will trump Brandon Stanley in that defensive-minded Chargers team.
I will give the slight advantage to the Vikings, but they're going to need to bring all the equipment because Justin Herbert is no joke. I know that they haven't proceeded as far, and some people are thinking that Justin Herbert might be overrated. Well, if we're going to give some of the reasons why, Cousins hasn't gotten much further than the divisional round of the playoffs, when we talk about what's surrounding him, we kind of have to give that same thing to him. Week 4 reunion with old reliable Minnesota's own Adam Thielen in Carolina against the Carolina Panthers. I still think, unless something ridiculous happens, we'll still be probably facing Andy Dalton at that particular point in time. But I could be wrong. Maybe they start. I think Bryce Young's going to sit for at least a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. But regardless, I don't think the Vikings, regardless of who the quarterback is for the Carolina Panthers, should have any trouble winning this game. And if they do, it's another one of those signs. But what say you, Mike?
I don't agree on a couple of points. I think Bryce Young starts week 1. I think it's all garbage. Andy Dalton is a great backup. He won't complain. He'll take his money. He'll shut his mouth, and he'll be happy. His days as starter are gone. I mean, go look what he did last year for the Saints. He cost them probably a playoff spot, if we're being perfectly honest. But I also think this is a trap game. I think the Panthers, they're a problem defensively. Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, they've caused us problems in the past, and they have the best quarterback they've had since Cam Newton. And we struggled to beat them with Teddy, and we struggled to beat them with Sam Darnold. Well, Bryce Young is what I'm expecting to be, as much as it breaks my heart because Kwesi actually he wanted him, but I digress. I think we could easily lose this game. I think we'll win it, but I think it's going to be close.
Wow, he said easily lose this game, ladies and gentlemen. So we both got the team starting out 3-1. Well, I'm going to come back to the Chargers game in a minute here because this is how I'm going to go about these next 3 weeks. We've got Kansas City at home. We got San Francisco at home, surrounding a game against the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field. Let's look at these 3 together. You better win that Chicago game. I'm going to say it like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't see you beating Kansas City. And you can talk me into it. Do you think they have a shot against San Francisco? Because let's just look at it that way. We don't need to go through that. What do you say on San Francisco?
I do need to touch on the Chiefs point just because I have to. This stat's been off the top of my head. If Kirk Cousins pulls a miracle and beats the Chiefs and the Bengals, he would have beaten every single NFL team in his career, which I never thought I'd be uttering those words. I know it's basically meaningless, but very few quarterbacks have actually done that, so it would be something. He'll hang the banner somewhere in his, bedroom. But anyway, I think we lose the Chiefs, so I'm not even going to talk about that much more than that. I just had to mention the Cousins point.
Right.
The Bears, like you said, it's must win. I don't care. You need to beat them. I know you kind of are an admirer of Justin Fields more than I am, but I'm sorry. This schedule, you cannot lose these games. It goes without saying. You must win that. The Niners, oh God. I mean, if their quarterback situation is not good, that gives us a chance, but I don't think we're beating Kansas City or San Francisco. I think we go 1-2 in that stretch.
I think the 49ers defense is good enough to contain our offense that even if you have a even if they were running the same offense they were running in Philadelphia after Purdy was out, where Christian McCaffrey was taking snaps, right to change my mind later. But just think of it like this. If the Vikings were hosting San Francisco or in San Francisco and they had knocked out Brock Purdy, I still don't know that they beat them. I'm talking about last year now with the Ed Donashell.
So you're saying with Josh Johnson playing?
With Josh Johnson playing against the Ed Donashell defense, I don't know that we would have won it even.
If we lose to Josh Johnson.
That's my point. All I'm saying is this.
Brutal.
All I'm saying is this. When I look at the first 7 games, the best that I can see is 3 wins out of it, maybe 4. And the best I can see is 4. You've got Tampa Bay, you got Carolina, you got Chicago. There can be no question about that. Now, if you lose a close game against the Chargers and then lose the other 3 against Philly, San Francisco, and Kansas City, and you start off 3-4 through 7 games, that's not ideal. No. But 3 wins through 7 games has got to be your bare minimum. Anything shorter than that, somebody's head needs to roll, I would think. Whether that's I don't know who would be at that point, but that's why I think that Chargers game is extremely important.
Yes.
You've got to get that one in your back pocket because you have to anticipate that through 7 games you're going to have at least 3 losses. Am I crazy to think that through 7 we could have almost as many losses we had all last year?
No, it's possible, unfortunately. I love for Kirk. Again, this is your moment, Kirk. Turn the narrative, right? Are you ever going to do it now or never? It really is sink or swim. I tweeted that earlier. He can't do it now. He's never going to do it. I do want to throw out this about the Chargers game. Let's bring in a Fadio Dedebo on a one day contract so he can get a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then we're good. But
will we still have Danielle Hunter to strip the ball for him on that play? But I digress. All right, let's go through the next. We're not going to go one at a time. We're going to go for the next 5 games again, all the way up to the bye week. So we've got at Green Bay, at Atlanta, then home against the Saints, the aforementioned road game against the Broncos, and then home against Chicago. So I'm going to say it like this. You better be 4-1 in that stretch, if not 5-0. I said earlier that I think our toughest game on the schedule outside of the Big 4 is the road game against the Denver Broncos because it's a road thing. It's a West Coast thing. I still think that Russell Wilson has got something left, and I still think, as much as we don't like Sean Payton for all the obvious reasons, I still think that those two are going to have something going on there. So Green Bay on the road. We finally get to play in Green Bay and not in December or January, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get a round of applause just to be able to not have to bundle up in the cold going to Green Bay? You better beat Green Bay. I don't care if they're 7-0 at that particular point in time. They won't be.
Maybe the role reversal. 0-7. Let's hope.
I think they'll have at least 2 wins by that point in time. Atlanta, you better. I don't care that it's back-to-back road games. Green Bay and Atlanta, there should be no discussion. Home against the Saints. What do you think? What do you think the Saints are going to have for us there?
I don't fear the Saints. We really have beaten the Saints. Of course, classic Viking fashion. A lot since 2009. Aside from that Christmas, it might as well have been Christmas Nightmare. Something like from
the Christmas
from poor Scrooge.
Yes.
Like honestly, it was disastrous. I mean, Alvin Kamara at least won me my fantasy league then, but at least there was that. I think we'll beat the Saints. I don't worry about them. I honestly mean this, Justin. They're bad now. They're an aging old roster. They have very few redeeming qualities. I mean, Olave's good. Mm-hmm. They don't have much past that. They really, really don't.
Sorry, I got to point that one back out. Donna Dumps defense. We've said Donna Shell, Donna Dumps. I like it. Thank you, Change. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. All right. So, having said all that, if I'm being realistic, I've got this team starting out 4-3, and I've got them. 4-3, and then 4-1 in this stretch. So that would get them to 8-4 into the bye week. I think that's a reasonable expectation. I know that we've only had 3 out of the 4 big guns teams that we don't think we're going to beat there. I got to give them at least one additional loss in there somewhere. I'm sticking to us losing on the road at Denver because, again, I don't want to sound like a complete homer, and I just can't keep picking the Vikings to win because all that will do is get me more excited to just be more heartbroken there. But if they were to do what they should do, which is beat the teams that they are equal to or better than and lose to the teams that they are worse than, going into the bye week at 9-3, we'll take that, right? We'd be happy with 9 wins at that point, right?
I mean, of course. I will say this. I honestly have them going 5-0 in that stretch. I really, really do. And maybe that's the homer in me. I don't know. I don't fear Jordan Love, Desmond Ritter / Tyler Heineke.
No.
Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, I don't fear. Remember, we beat him his last season in Seattle. A lot of people forget that. As bad as our defense was, I think he is slightly on the decline. I don't think he's as bad. Let me make this clear. I don't think he's as bad as he showed in Denver last year, but I don't think he's what he was in 2018 through 2020. I don't think so. And Justin Fields, again, I think he's a decent quarterback. I'm sorry. You have to go 2-0 against the Bears. You have no choice.
Yeah, it would be a massive disappointment to not sweep the Bears and to not sweep the Packers. I can listen to splitting with the Lions, and we'll finish that off because we're going to have them 2 out of the last 3 weeks. But it's kind of one of those deals where if somehow, some way, you found a way to beat, let's just say, I can't say Philly as much as I want to. And I can't say, all right, let's say you beat San Francisco because I can't say Philly and KC. I just can't. Let's say you beat San Francisco. That's a Monday night game at home. And you go in, then go into Green Bay, and then Atlanta, and then New Orleans, and then Denver, and you are riding a 5-game winning streak, and then lose to the Bears. All that goodwill that you got by beating San Francisco is immediately dumped back into the other side of the bin here. I'm going to say it like this. To your point about the Vikings beating Russell Wilson, in fact, that game that they beat Russell Wilson was the day before you and I did our first ever show together.
Yep.
Mike.
Yep.
Russell Wilson wasn't 100% healthy. Not our fault. Can't control that, but I'm going to call for what it is. He was on that situation. Seattle was falling apart. Listen, you take the wins any way you can get them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let Russell Wilson completely off the hook for how garbage last year was, but I am going to say that I still think that there's something there. So that's why, to me, outside of the Big Four, I'm putting that. If that game was at home, then I would feel a lot more confident. But I'm sorry, road prime time. Russell Wilson, I think, is going to have a bit of a resurgence with Sean Payton. I just think we're losing that one. But either way, if you're 9-3 or 8-4 going into your bye week with 5 games left, you literally can. I mean, you can write your own ticket at that point. You only have one other team that is definitively better than you. So at the bye week, if you have anything fewer than 8 wins, something went wrong.
Yeah.
Something went wrong if you have fewer than 8 wins. I mean, I said that I expect them to win 10 games this year, and if they have 8 at the bye or 9, all right, now you're in business again. So what say you, Mike?
No, I agree with all that. I do want to say this, about the Russell Wilson stuff.
Yeah.
It almost gives me vibes like if we were playing Cleveland this year, where that is not the best version of Deshaun Watson, but he can't be that bad.
Right.
Now, Wilson and Watson was a little bit different situations. I'm not going to get into all that kettle of fish. But
let's not do that.
It still matters the relevancy of going to a new team, having to learn a new system. And, it's almost kind of like being a rookie again to an extent. I'm not trying to give those guys passes. They didn't play well enough.
Right.
But I definitely think Russell Wilson is better than what he was last year. Mind you, by all means, you want to continue that, Russ. I have no dog in the fight. And if Sean Payne wants to go 3-14 in his return to the NFL, by all means, I would love every second of that. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I'm moving this around on the screen so that my face doesn't constantly get covered up by when our lovely commenters make comments here. And, of course, I forgot that I have that live shot right in the middle there. So, I'm just going to monkey around with this here. All right, let's see how this goes. All right. Now my face ain't covered up here. Real quick, before I get to the next, Norris Force is in the building. Thank you kindly. You made it. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Davey says, seriously, if we stay fairly healthy, we'll be fine. I think so. I mean, again, you can say that about any team and about any year, about any sport, is you can talk about all your talents. You can talk about your coaches. You can talk about your schemes. somebody, tears an ACL, breaks a leg, or is out for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
a month or something, then all of a sudden everything changes. I do like, and that's a very good point, Dr. Proto. Thank you. I think that having a week 13 bye, particularly when you want to fancy yourself as not only a team that is going to try to just be competitive for the division and just get into the playoffs and be happy with that. If you're a team that has designs in playing in an NFC championship game, having a week 13 bye where you've cleared 12 games, only got 5 behind it, where you may or may not be in a position to get the one and only bye week that we now have in the playoffs, having a week 13 bye is an absolute blessing. Thank you, Doctor, for that point. What say you on that, Mike?
I prefer it was a touch earlier, like week 11, but it is better than last year, in my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's not the end of the world having it in week 5 or 6. But yes, I think this is more ideal. I do.
Yeah, I don't want any bye weeks before at least week 10, if I'm being honest. I want it close to the middle, and if I have to have it on one side or the other, I'd rather have it on the late side. Let me get a shout out in here to Zach. Zach Wallace is in the house. What's up? Let's go 17-0. Well, probably not. Would I be ecstatic about it? Yes. Would I say, oh, I can't believe what has gone on? This defense has got.
If Kirk Cousins
well, there you
beat
go.
Cincinnati, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and most importantly, Kansas City, we're playing Madden, Justin. Yeah. There's no way that's happening. There's just no way. I'd be utterly dumbfounded.
I would agree. I have no idea, Zach. I have no idea if I'm going to go to any of these games this year. I will say this, that I know SK is going to try. SK is definitely going to the Carolina game, as is Rap, because Rap lives in Carolina. And
Kyle, too, potentially.
I think Kyle definitely was going to be there as well. SK said he was going to try to get to the home opener, but he's not sure yet. So I honestly don't know. I'll say this. If SK does manage to get to, and Rap and Company do manage to come up for a game and it's coordinated, we'll definitely be doing some lives the night before and after the game at a local establishment with the entire crew here. But having said that, I have no clue what I'm doing. There is talk. A lot of the guys want to go to the Vegas game. Gigi was talking about it too. We're trying real hard, and I don't know my availability to be able to do that, but but everybody wants to go to the Vegas game, so why the heck not? But I agree, Norris, that is a great time. Totally agree. D. Will's in the building. Thank you, D. Will. What's going on? Thanks for joining. Put your predictions in there. All right, question on the table for anybody who's come in after we said this. The question on the table for the chat tonight is, outside of the Big Four, which are Kansas City, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Cincinnati, outside of those 4 games, what do you think the toughest game on the Viking schedule is? And if you're picking one of the divisional opponents, please let us know, home or away. Obvious away would probably be more logical, but you never know. Mike said that the road game against Detroit was his toughest on the schedule, minus the Big Four. I said on the road on Monday Night Football in Denver. If we have 10 wins by week 13, we take the division. If we have 10 wins by the bye week, are you kidding me? If we had 10 through the first 12 games, we'd be in line for the number 1 seed, because that means we had to have beaten at least San Francisco or Philly. If we have 10 wins, only 2 losses, assuming one of them is to Kansas City, that means you had to beat at least one of the other 2 teams. But at the end of the day, now, if we had 10 wins if we started out 10-2, all right, I might have to be singing Kirk Cousins' contract extension, and my voice is not capable of singing.
Well, I did not expect to hear those words. I did not.
That's not going to happen. Stupid Vegas. I'd make it to Oakland. All right, fair enough. Again, Norris, outside of KC, Cincy, San Francisco, and Philly, outside of the Big Four.
Yes.
All division home games. Any primetime games, says D. Will. All right. Well, it's funny. I don't know if you caught SK shows or I don't know if you caught SK's show earlier, but Sarah kind of had the same thing. Hopefully we get out of these primetime games. She was relentless on it. I'm saying, Norris, outside of the Big Four, so not counting Philly, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Cincinnati. Take those 4 games out. The other 13 games, tell us which one you think is the toughest. I went with Denver on the road. He went with Detroit on the one. Anyway, having said all that, coming out of the bye, we got that Raiders game we were just discussing here. That's got to be a win coming out of the bye against arguably, well, maybe Green Bay, but we don't know. Obviously, of the games outside of the bye, Cincinnati and Detroit are the 3 tougher ones there. So you got to get that game, don't you? Do we need to talk about that?
Yes. Jimmy Garoppolo decent quarterback, bottom of that second tier. I'm sorry, Josh Daniels is one of the worst coaches in NFL history. For what he's been paid, he stinks. He's absolutely overrated.
So you don't like Garoppolo?
I think he's okay. No, Garoppolo's okay. Mm-hmm. Josh McDaniels is not a head coach.
Oh, McDaniels. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the McDaniels. I'm sorry.
Josh McDaniels. I mean, my God. You want to talk about a guy that's been blessed. If he was not in New England for all those years, he's probably out of the NFL. Honestly.
Yeah. A lot of coaches that got to ride that Bill Belichick gravy train and make a lot of money on it. All right, Cincinnati. Do we have any shot of winning this game in December on the road against Cincinnati, barring some injury to either Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow? Because I just don't see it happening. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is actually the one I've got circled, Justin. If there's a hope and a prayer, it's this one. And I only say that because Cincinnati has a lot of the same deficiencies we do. Mm-hmm. Their defense is not great. A lot of mid-tier players, chip and change. They relied on Eli Apple the last 3 years. He was a bust in New York, okay? Yeah. Let's just say it as it is. He was not a good first-round pick for the Giants. No. So I think that's the one, again, I want to say this too. We need to win one of these, bare minimum. I don't care. If you go 0-4, go and get a quarterback next year. End of story. That's that. I don't care. I don't want to hear the excuses. I really don't. You paid Kirk Cousins to be the last piece to the puzzle, and he can't win big games. Well, what's the point of paying him? You might as well pay a rookie. But the Cincinnati one I think is the one we have the best chance to win.
Yeah. And by the way, let me say this. I'm not saying that the games against the Chargers at home is not a big game because they're a good team. I'm not saying a road win on Monday Night Football against the Denver Broncos isn't a big game because it's a primetime game. But going into the season, what expectations do you have from the Chargers and the Broncos? To me, none.
Second place, in their division. Best case, yeah.
At best.
Yeah. Yep.
So, okay, we're not counting those as big games. And guess what? Green Bay and Chicago, none of one of those 4 games are big games. They're big games from a rivalry standpoint. They're big games from a fan standpoint. It's just like, okay, yeah, if we had a bad season, but we still sweep the Packers or sweep the Packers and the Bears, is it still somewhat enjoyable? Yeah, okay. But you're right. You got to win one of these games. Yes. Otherwise, it's the same old Vikings where you beat the teams you're supposed to and lose the teams that you're better than. At some point, do what you did last year in Buffalo. You weren't supposed to win that game.
No.
And they did. They got a lot of luck. Cousins gets stuffed at the 1-inch line. You thought the game was over. And then Josh Allen fumbles it. You thought the game was over. And then we're in overtime. JJ gets the ball down to the 2. You think the game is over. Until Patrick Peterson was the fat lady singing with that interception. That game kept going on and going on. But you found a way to win it. And you don't have to apologize for it. Find a way to beat one of those 4 teams.
I do want to touch on this too, especially the Eagles one, Justin.
Yeah.
If he somehow can pull that off, you want to talk about a difference a year could make. Could you imagine if after that debacle, and that's what it was, debacle on Monday Night Football, if he can go and play in the same stadium the same week of the season, in week 2, and beat that team, you have to think that would be really a statement win. But I need to see it, Kirk. I'm sorry. I don't care. I need to see it.
Here's the other thing I'm going to say about that. If you can't beat Philly, could you at least not get your butts handed to you? Okay. Yeah. Yes. 2017 NFC Championship game. Yeah. 2018, we went back there and we squeaked out a win in the first year of Kirk Cousins. That's great. Last year, got killed. If you can squeak out a win or you can at least be competitive, I know that's lowering standards. And you know me, I don't like having low standards like that. Oh. But because the one thing I don't want is if they beat us like by 24 points again, what are we going to hear? Oh, it's the same old, we are Philadelphia's younger brother or we're their sons, whatever, that sort of thing. At the very least, at least represent yourself in Philly. If you lose to Kansas City by 10, even at home, there's no shame in that as long as you are, not just rolling over and dying. San Francisco, same thing. But for the love of all things, can we at least do something halfway decent in Philly? But on to Cincinnati. What's your official prediction on the Cincinnati game here?
No, we'll lose that game. I do want to say this, though. Again, I have us losing them all. But I do need to throw this out here. Jordan Addison, right? We've all talked about how he's supposed to be different. Well, then it's got to be different. It's not this. It's the exact same garbage. If you go 0-4 in the games that matter, then what were we criticizing Thielen for last year? Because if you go 0-4 in those games and you don't separate, well, what are we talking about here?
Mary, I don't even know if it's a primetime thing anymore. I think it's just about
Monday night. It is. Go look at his stuff. My God, Monday Night Football. He wakes up in the cold sweats the night before. It's so bad statistically. I've looked into it. It's brutal.
I think it's more about facing better. A lot of the times when we're playing on Monday night with Kirk, we're playing better teams. We're not playing. Yeah, again, there's been a couple of division games, and there was, that time in Chicago where we won 19-13 in an ultimately meaningless season, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily talking about the primetime thing. I'm saying like last year, who did we lose to? We lost to Philly, better than us. Lost to Dallas, better than us. Lost to Green Bay. I'm not saying that they're better than us, and we lost to Detroit, who are pretty near equal to us. And I'll let one of those go because you did get that game in Buffalo, which is a game you weren't expecting. Yeah. So, okay, it kind of much.
And you split with Detroit and Green Bay. Like, that is relevant.
Yeah, that's relevant. So, I guess all I'm saying to me is that just beat a team you're not supposed to beat. Yeah. We want
and the way they won the Bills game too, Justin, like, though I was so happy because I was there live and I witnessed that, there is a part of me that wishes Kirk threw the touchdown. You know what I mean? Go off as a hero. Like, why is it always got to be these weird circumstances? It's annoying because Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Hurts, Lawrence, they've had walkout iconic wins like Kirk. Like, even the Saints won 2019. He got kind of lucky. He threw it up to Rudolph and he made a ridiculous catch. Like, do it, man. Do it.
Yeah. Kirk's legacy, even though it was 3 plays later, it wouldn't have mattered. But the bomb to Thielen that got him down to the 2, if that could have just been the touchdown, that changes a little bit of his narrative. And it's ridiculous that one play could have that much merit on the guy's narrative, but who knows? I don't know if it's a prime. I think it's partially prime time, and I also think it's the opponents that we play. Because guess what? They're not scheduling the Vikings against the Raiders
Atlanta.
on prime time or Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Having said all that, we got a loss. All right, let's go about these last 3 games. Realistically, you have to expect 2-1. You'd love 3-0. You've got to assume that one of those wins is at home against Green Bay. Is there any reason to talk about this? Green Bay should be done at that point. And if you are any kind of team, you don't lose at home to your chief rivals who no longer have a Hall of Fame quarterback. So can we just throw that one as a W, Mike, or do you got something?
Yes, I do want to throw this out here. It'd be so cool if Justin Jefferson had his inner Stephon Diggs and say the Packers had like a 0.1% chance to make the playoffs. Right. And then they could just go like this and then it'd be great. I love that moment. That was one of Diggs' most iconic moments. Obviously the miracle, but that was right up there too. That was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty good. All right, so we've been talking about this Detroit team on and off since we started this, about how supposedly they're right there with the Vikings to win this division. In some areas, they're actually favored here. I'm not sure that I like this 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
I don't either.
Part of the schedule, by the way. We talked about it earlier. Do we like the schedule? What do we think about it? This is the part I hate the most, is you took the 2 best teams and you gave – and now, who did that? I believe Philly and Philly and New York did the 2 steps in 3 weeks last year, if I recall correctly, right?
I thought no, I think you are. Yes, you are right. I believe you are right because they played like Thanksgiving and they played like a little bit after. I believe so.
Look up the schedule. I think that they played. Well, look it up. But talk to me about Detroit. We going 1-1, 0-2, 2-1. What do you say?
They can't go 0-2. They can't do that. I will say this, Justin. I have the Lions winning the division today. If I had to put money on it today, I'd have the Detroit Lions win the division.
All right, chat. Don't worry about it. I got you. We ain't having that talk. I'm just playing, Mike. Go ahead.
That was good. That actually was funny. That made me laugh. I generally think they have a better roster. As of now, I talked about the on-paper stuff. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley. They have Aiden Hutchinson. They probably have a better defense than us. Malcolm Rodriguez.
There's no probably. They do.
But this is the difference. Kevin O'Connell is a better coach than Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell, heart and soul, lung guts. He's not a great X and O's guy. I'm sorry. The amount of times that guy goes for fourth down, he's playing Madden. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous. He went for it for like 25 times last year. And it bit him in the butt a couple times too. So I think the Lions are a good team, but they still need to prove it. They're still not, an elite team until they prove it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we go 1-1.
Winning at home and home, or what do you think?
Yeah, like last year. Yep.
All right.
J-Mo, please don't get another touchdown, for the love of God. Don't have 3 catches and 70 yards and it be a touchdown on the Vikings. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I apologize. Though it was New York and Washington that did the two-step. They had
that was the Sam Howell game the second time around.
Yeah, it was weeks 13 and weeks 15. I knew there was a two-step with one of those teams in there somewhere, but I digress. So ultimately, where do we? All right, let's run through this back. Let's run through this back again. I've got them going 4-3.
You mean the Giants and Washington?
Yeah, the Giants in Washington.
Okay.
I said Giants in Philly earlier. I'm sorry. It was Giants in Washington that did the.
My apology. I just want to make sure. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go through my schedule game by game. I've got Tampa win, Philly loss, wins against the Bolts and the Panthers, loss against Kansas City and San Francisco, two wins against Chicago, 1 against Green Bay, 1 against Atlanta, 1 against New Orleans, and a loss to Denver. So I have them starting off through their first 12 games. I have them starting off 8-4. I got them winning against the Raiders, losing against the Bengals. So that puts them to 9-5. Winning against the Packers gets them 10. So even though I said 10-7 earlier, splitting with the Lions, I got them at 11-6. I don't suppose. Is that where you ended up, or did we end up with the same record?
I think we were 11-6 there, and it may have been 12-5, but it's one of the two. Like I said,
all right, you go through yours again, and I'll count them up.
Okay, I'll say mine. So It was Bucks. We beat, then we lose to Philly, then we beat the Chargers, we beat the Panthers, we lose to the Chiefs, we beat the Bears, we lose to the Niners, we beat the Packers. We beat the Falcons, we beat the Saints, we beat the Broncos, we beat the Bears, then there's the bye. We beat the Raiders, lose to the Bengals, beat the Lions the first time, beat the Packers, lose to the Lions the second time.
Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so you have them at 12-5.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, anywhere between 10 and 12 wins is what I expect. If it's anything less, that's a disaster.
Yeah, you can't have any fewer than 10 wins.
No.
I'm sorry.
No,
obviously.
I don't want to hear this garbage. Like, say, for example, Justin, they go 9-8 and they get in, but they somehow pull the miracle win over Kansas City. That doesn't give you an excuse to say, well, that's why, they had a hard schedule and they pulled one of the tough ones out. Everyone wanted them to win one of the tough ones, and they did it. Don't do that garbage. I do not want to hear the Kirk Crusaders do that crap in 4 or 5 months' time. If that happens and they're 9-8 and miss, get out. Get out.
I'm just going to leave this one up here from Mary. And please don't have any of these close win games. We need some that we kick some ass in. Yes, Mary. Yes. Enough of these heart attacks every single week. It
was nice watching that Bears game week 18. I know it was relatively meaningless, but it was nice to actually win a game.
Yeah. But that's kind of my point. They were tanking. They didn't care.
No.
They didn't care. D. Will says we split again. I'm assuming he meant about the Lions. The selection should be like being on Bulls. Well, there's that. Mary says, where my rum? And Doctor says, in my belly. All right, in all seriousness. Doctor says 11 wins. Sarah's in the building. Was talking about you earlier, Sarah, about how when you were on SK, you said 12-5, and all 5 of our losses were the primetime games, and all 12 of our wins were the non-prime times. But jokes aside,
that is such a Kirk Cousins job if I've ever seen one from Sarah.
Yes. But in all seriousness, Sarah, thanks for joining us. If y'all hadn't hit the like buttons on the way in, hit the like buttons on the way out for me, and share this out, put it on Twitter, whatever the case may be. We need to, there you go. They need to pass what they're smoking. Yes. Packer fan said that we will finish last in the division. What? I'll take that bet. I will.
Maybe on opposite day.
I will take that bet. No kidding. If they get 11 with that schedule, they're going to be Moxie in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, again, maybe I expect too much, but you really should not. I'm not going to say, the 4 losses to the four great teams and then win all 13 of them. That's unrealistic, but realistically 10, even 10 doesn't really excite me all that much.
Not me either. No, I'm not going to be jumping up and down.
Right.
I'm trying to be impartial here. Right. That's why that comment threw me off. It says purple shades 10-7. No. That's the bare minimum.
Yeah, I agree. D Will says 8-9, maybe 9-8. So D Will, all right, D Will, just put your losses in there. I don't need you to put win loss. Just put who you say we lose to in there. I'm just curious. Davey Chain says 12 W's. Skull Zone, what's up, Skull Zone? Hey, thanks for joining, man. Appreciate you. If y'all don't already follow or subscribe to Skull Zone, hit my boy up as well. He says we only got 3 losses on our schedule. All right, Skull Zone.
So we're beating one of those teams, guaranteed.
Who's our 3 losses to? Because that means we got to win against somebody we're not anticipating, but I'd love to hear it. He says, hey, Zone, and he says, hey, Bob. All right, cool. I had a couple of stars. Oh, yeah, I already talked about these. 3 loss. I didn't see 13 wins last year. I sure don't see no 14 wins this year.
No, Justin, they pull that off. We're catching some breaks along the way. I'll tell you, we're catching some breaks.
Bears fans saying, okay, that's great. Listen, I like Justin Fields. I do. I think that he's been put in a position to fail, and has not been given the tools to succeed. I like Justin Fields. Mike, you tell him.
You do. Yeah, you do. You do.
They started out bad, and I'm just like, why are we wasting our time being a 7-win team when we could just trade off some pieces and be done and move on with the rest of our lives? And I wanted him to get Justin Fields. And I still say to this day, you put Justin Fields with Kevin O'Connell, he's going to do a lot better than he has in Chicago. But they are not winning this division. I don't care how fast your wide receiver trio is.
No. Can I say something about the Bears?
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears, of all fan bases, do not have the right to try to act like they are going to win a division when they do not even have a 4,000-yard passer in their franchise history. Sit down, relax. You had 1 Super Bowl. God knows when. It was so long ago. No one even remembers it. And get out of here. Relax. Dick Butkus was one of their key players. He's literally in his 70s now. Stop.
I'm not going to get into the Ohio State thing. I've made my peace on it. At some point, you can never take another wide receiver from Mississippi because
Ole Miss,
or Ole Miss because Laquan Treadwell was terrible. Yes, there's been some patterns and some things, but no, I think Justin Fields still got some, and I think C.J. Stroud's going to have something, but I don't want to be kind of good. I don't want to be kind of good. Yes, we want to be great. Yeah. D. Will says, they think we'll be competitive, but probably only winning 4 one-point games. Yes, we're not going to get as many one-point game wins as we did last year, ladies and gentlemen. We're just not.
There's no way. What was it like? It would have been 12, right? 12. Because they only beat the Bears by 1 point. Does he mean 1 point or 1 score wins? Well, that means 1 score wins, right? That's what he's getting at?
I think he meant 1 score wins, yeah.
Yeah. I think we had 12.
Hold up. We beat the Packers and the Bears.
Oh, the Packers one, yeah.
So it was 11.
It was 11. That's still ridiculous. Yeah.
We're
forget about the Packers one because Ed Donatel's defense actually showed up that day. It was a miracle.
We're not.
Do you remember, Justin? I had a Christmas tree ornament put up after that Week 1 win. It really was a Christmas miracle, that defense actually showing up for 4 quarters.
Yes. Well, part of it is because Watson dropped that first pass. I mean, it was right in front of me from where I was sitting at that game, and I'm not saying that means the Packers would have won that game if he catches that touchdown, but it's certainly it's just like in Week 2.
Yeah, I was about to say it with
Irv Smith. Okay, we can't just pretend that if Irv Smith makes that catch that we win the game, but it certainly makes a difference. That's for sure. Yes, Sculpture Soup, we do go to Philly again. That is correct. Now, that's based off of a rotational thing. It has nothing to do with anything else. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but it does kind of suck that we've now gotten into this with 2 teams. It used to be Seattle that we would always match up with as our crossover game, and every year we matched up with them was their year to host, or we would match up and Seattle would be where facing the West, and as Seattle turned to host, it just kind of ended up that way. Same thing with Philly. There's no conspiracy there. It just does kind of suck there. But Fields doesn't stand a chance. Chicago is purgatory, or QB purgatory. There's some truth to that. There is some truth. I've said it. Get him out of Chicago. I want to see what he does out of Chicago. I really think that he would be better, but we don't have to.
That is spot on. They have never had a good like a franchise quarterback. Well, at least we have Fran. At least Viking fans can talk about Fran. And as much as I'm not the biggest Dante Culpepper guy, Dante Culpepper is the best quarterback in franchise history in Chicago. Easily.
Oh, no question. There's lots of quarterbacks there.
Prime Dante, by the way. Now, I'm not talking about the Detroit Lions, Dante Culpepper.
Right. We're talking about the 5 years he was with us. Step on the gas, things on the opponent's throats. Norris force. I agree with you. Packers have a rookie quarterback with rookie pass catchers, but apparently their receivers are top-notch in the NFL. You are correct, Sarah. I don't know who's more high or drunk between Packers fans, Lions fans, and Bears fans right now.
Lions fans have – Sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
No, I'm just saying, Lions can be, hey, we're optimistic because, we're on up and coming. Yeah. Green Bay, you just lost your second franchise quarterback of the last 30 years. You're not lucking into, and especially not in year one, Jordan Love being at the same level as even bad Aaron Rodgers was last year. Chicago, we like I said, I like Justin Fields and I wouldn't mind having him, but let's be serious for a second. You're not, no. Sorry, moving on.
No. Like the Lions fans, this is the thing. I talked to a lot of Lions fans on Twitter.
How many primetime games we win? Laugh out loud. All right, let's go through them again. We lose to Philly. Yes. That's a primetime game.
Yep.
I say lose to San Francisco. That's a primetime game. I say lose to Denver. I say beat Chicago. And I say beat Green Bay. So I got us going 2 and 3 in the scheduled primetime games. Mind you, again, we said this earlier, but just for case everybody for joining us, and thanks kindly everybody for being in the billet tonight. And we appreciate the participation in the chat. Thank you so much. I think that Green Bay game has a possibility of getting flexed out, and I believe that the Week 18 game has a possibility of getting flexed in. So having said that, I see 2 and 3 on the schedule right now. Mike says 3 and 2 because he thinks we're beating Denver. That's the only thing we disagree on there. But so there you go.
Can I get back to the Lions point quickly?
Oh, yeah.
Talk to a lot of the Lions fans on Twitter.
Hold on. Oh, wrong way. Sarah says 0 primetime games. I knew you'd come through, Sarah. Anyway, your Lions thing. Go again.
What I think their problem is, Justin, they have the right to think their team is good. They are good. But it's this outrageous ability to think you're going to go into Kansas City and win. No. You might lose by 20 points. There is a legitimate possibility that happens. And you get completely clobbered. Like, Justin, you remember when the Vikings, right, 2017 to 2018, where we were the underdogs, we won a lot of games, we had low expectations, and then we had high expectations heading to 2018. We failed. No one, you said it yourself, the Lions were 1-6 to start the year. No one had them as a threat through 7 games. They went under the radar. Goff put up some nice numbers. Goff, when he's pressured, when it matters, we've seen it in the Super Bowl, when it matters, when he's getting hit, he's like Cousins, the bottom 5S quarterback. At his worst, that's his floor. It's really bad when they're getting pressured. They have the same type of faults where when they're getting blitzed, they stink. If you remember, Justin, when we beat the Lions the first time, we were hitting him with the blitz, and he stunk, and he threw a pick to Josh Metellus to end the game.
Yep.
The people are going to target the Lions now. They're not going to be a 13-win team like some Lion fans think. I'm sorry. They're not.
They're not. For a team that's never won the NFC North, they're already Kings of the North.
Tampa's won it before them, right? Tampa's won the division before them.
Not even before them. They've never won it since we
went from the division in general.
Since then, yes, you are correct. What's up, Davey Chains? In 2 years, Rodgers will be our starting quarterback.
Nah. They gave up too much. I love this meme. I love it. Okay, how can you not love this meme?
Yeah.
But the Packers got way more in this time. The Jets gave up a lot. They are not cutting Aaron Rodgers in a year's time after giving up a first-round pick. He will be a first because I'm sorry, he's going to play 65% of the snaps.
Oh, yeah. No question.
They're not cutting him. I actually think the Jets could be a 13-win team. Here's your 13-win team, just the New York Jets. I think there'd be a serious problem. Thank God we're not playing the Jets this year.
Wow. A shout out to Lindstrom is in the building. Thank you kindly. A week ago, people were saying we have a brutal schedule and we're going to go 8-9 every year is different. Yeah, no, yeah. It's just a fun exercise. It's one of those deals where, hey, we haven't gone live for a minute other than some draft stuff, so we had to come on and we had to get going here. We're going to wrap it about a couple more minutes here. So if you got any other comments you want to get in or any other final prediction records, all right. So anybody who just got in the building. First off, hit the like button if you didn't on your way in. Wipe your feet at the door, as they say. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. But 2 things to put into comments. 1, how many wins? 2, outside. So here's the parameter one more time. Taking away Philly, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Cincinnati. Take those 4 games off the table. The other 13 games that we have. So again, the final 4 from last year, the 4 big opponents. Who do you think the toughest opponent is for the Vikings? I say Denver on the road in Week 11 on Monday Night Football. Mike says the Detroit Lions would be a bigger opponent. I'm saying the Denver game to me is the toughest out of the remaining 13. What say you? Someone really bad today will be really good. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
What's up, Dan? How you doing? Thanks for joining. Appreciate you. Tap in here live with Ice-T with Athletic Freak Mike. What's going on? Chilling, Dylan. I appreciate you coming on in. I appreciate you. I think Rap and Dave are going to go at 10 o'clock Eastern time is what they thought. That's what they said they might do. I know Rap posted it on his channel, so I think those guys are going to go a little bit later. Any other holy cow, I'm way behind on chats here. We've been talking too much, Mike, here. So anyway, all right, Skolger Soup. I was wondering how you were talking about that, but all right, so Skolger says we lose to Philly, Kansas City, loses to Chicago and San Francisco. Oh, wow. That's
and he put for sure losses. He put for sure we lost to Chicago, Justin.
Right.
Fields is a good player to an extent, but that's bad. I'm sorry. That's bad. You can't have that.
All right, so he says Philly, Kansas City, Chicago, San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, that's 6 losses. I said 10-7 before we started because, again, the Vikings should sweep the North or at the very least be 5-1. They'll probably be 4-2. And I'm not saying that they're going to get swept by Detroit. And if they split with Detroit, that means they split with either Chicago or Green Bay, even though they shouldn't. So it's not outlandish. It's not outlandish in here.
When was the last time, Justin? I have to ask. When was the last time we were 6-0 in the division?
I know in 1998 we were.
God almighty. They lost what?
We were
1 game.
Wait a minute. We lost to Tampa Bay because they were. But I know 98 we swept the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions. So we were.
That's what I mean. Like those 3 teams.
So those 3 teams I know we did in 98. 2009 we beat Detroit twice. No, we lost to Chicago once. That's right. We lost to Chicago in Week 16. 2017, we beat the Packers twice. No, we lost to Detroit one. That's the game Dalvin Cook blew out his knee. I don't even know. I'd have to look it up.
That's what I mean. Like we have it. Like
usually pretty good with that.
We're going back. Like if they do that, like it'd be nice to see it. But Detroit, they're going to be a problem for a long time if they can get that quarterback. Thank God they might overpay Jared Goff. Please extend him. Please, I beg of you, because if we move on for Kirk and they extend Goff, we could actually be in a better spot long term.
So, in other words, you're saying about Jared Goff what everybody else is saying to us about Kirk Cousins. Please extend Kirk Cousins, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, we're not extending Kirk. I'll say it right now.
I think I'm not convinced he's done after this year.
I'm confident.
I hope so, but I'm not.
He's done. Unless he does something nuts, he has to go NFC title game or he's gone. Quincy.
No. I'm saying
I love his aggressiveness.
Their guy, or if they don't think Jared Hall's right, they could extend him for 1 more year. I don't see that as.
It's just so. It's just.
I don't want it.
Point.
I don't want it. I'll just say
don't do it if it actually is worth it. Like if he actually proves himself, right? He talked about it at the presser. Prove myself. If he doesn't prove himself, no.
Oh, Sarah, you're funny, Sarah. Kirk Cousins versus Derek Cousins. Who's wins? All right. Anyway, I was at the Detroit game when we got 9 sacks. It was sweet, I bet. Skolger Soup says Lions on the road. Dan says 10 wins regular season. If we beat San Francisco, I say we're okay, Sarah. All right. So Sarah's going to be serious now for a minute. Although I'm guessing she might not be because that's a primetime game, and Sarah already said we're going to lose all those primetime games. But I digress.
Well, maybe that is serious though to an extent, right? Because it's a little bit different than 0 primetime wins.
Exactly. Carolina does give us fights. You're right.
Oh yeah.
Goal zone. You're right, but they still got to win that game. Lions might actually be good this year. I think they are going to be good. I just don't think that they should be overhyped as they're the definitive favorites to win this division, and the division is theirs for the taking.
The betting odds are nuts.
I'm saying no.
Like, I'm not a big betting person. Viking fans, if you're a betting person, bet on the Vikings to win the division now. The fact that we have the same betting odds to win the division as the Bears, Justin, as the Bears. How? It doesn't make sense.
SKOL for Life says 12-5. Sure, they are good as low as. Yes, exactly. That's like I just said. No, you're wholly right. We split with Chicago and Lions. You know what, Skolger? I agree. We do always split with those two teams, and that's part of the reasons why I said 10-7 is because they should lose to the Big Four. Talked about that. I got them losing to Denver, and it wouldn't. That's 5, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm gonna be pissed off if we don't sweep Green Bay. I'm going to be very, very mad if we don't sweep Chicago, but not as mad as I would be if we don't sweep.
No, because at least they have a quarterback who's actually competent as of now. I don't think he's a star, but he's better than Jordan Love. Yes. It's not close.
Dan says 5-1 in the division. He also says an injury bug in week 2 means somebody would have to. Yeah, no, so we ain't beating the Eagles. Let's just say that.
The only in all seriousness, I don't wish injuries on anyone. The only way we're beating the Eagles realistically is less. Kirk Cousins becomes Superman and does something completely against the grain, or that we injure one of their main players, which I don't want to see. I'm not celebrating people's getting hurt. You don't want to see that.
Like that. We're not talking like that. Get ready for some surprises. Hey, Dave's the finals in the building. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Thanks for joining me, brother. Hey, you and Tyler had a great show last night. Oh, that's right. I did message you on Twitter. I couldn't remember if I did or not. But great show that you guys had last night. Sorry I couldn't join live because I was on with SK. But thanks for joining me, my brother. I appreciate that. We still got to talk about getting together and doing a show together, either on your channel or my channel, or both, whichever we want to do. But thanks for
joining me. Can we talk about Ivan Pace before we end this?
Yes, I'm just trying to get through all of these chats before I get behind again. There's a reason it was called the Black and Blue Division. Skolger says 9-8's at worst. This is people saying hello to Dave, and Dave saying hi back. Skolger says beat San Francisco and Chiefs. I just don't see it happening. San Francisco, maybe if everything went right because it's at home. But even though Kansas City's at home, I just don't see it happening. You can feel free to try to convince me. I just don't.
Hey, they have to play the games. There's that.
Well, that's true. That is why they play the games. You're right. This has to be a year. I don't think Kirk is the second best quarterback in the NFC. I have him. Well, I go Hurts 1. I go by a very slim margin, Dak 2. Then by a very slim margin, Kirk 3. Then Goff 4. Dak, Kirk, and Goff to me are all the same guy, but that's the order I would have him in. But there's very little separating two. So I guess second best isn't. I'd still take Dak by a minute.
But it's Hurts and everyone else. Let's just be real about it.
That's the key.
As of today, he still has to prove himself long term, but he's easily the best quarterback in the NFC right now. Easily.
Right now, tier 1 is Hurts all by himself. Right now, tier 2 is Dak, Goff, and Cousins. Dak, Cousins, and Goff. That's my order. I'm not going to fight anybody to death if they want to say that.
It can fluctuate.
If they want to, you want to take Kirk over Dak, that's fine. But anybody,
there's some people who have Derek Carr ahead of them, but it's that fluctuation. They're all in that same weird tier.
With Williams out, Detroit might have a rough start at the NFC. Yeah, no, there's some truth to that. I think the Bengals and the Vikings look even on paper. Really? All right, drop shot. That's a hot take for me. On paper, I think Cincinnati's defense, until proven otherwise, is even though it's not all that great, is better than ours. Their quarterback is better than ours. Yeah, I'll take JJ, but JJ and Jamar Chase are I mean, come on, they're about even. I mean, I wouldn't trade JJ for Jamar Chase, but they're pretty daggone close. No, I'm sorry. I'd have to say Cincinnati a little bit better than off paper, but that's just me. And we'll see. I mean, we don't know what Cincinnati will be. We don't know what the Vikings are going to be. I mean, it's week 15. It's the middle of December for crying out loud, but it's a road game, outdoors, Cincinnati. Can't bet on that one yet. I hope we keep Hunter and Smith, see if we can be an out of Yeah. Right.
Harrison Smith. They'll keep Hunter and Harrison Smith. There you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still not talking about Harrison. But by the way, for anybody who didn't see me on with SK yesterday, and I cut up a short and I put it on my channel as well. But we had Darren Doogie Wilson from Channel 5 KSTP and as well as Score North, who is about as plugged in as anybody. And he broke the news that za'darius Smith a couple weeks ago actually fired his agent and hired a new guy who is the same guy that does Kyler Murray and Christian Darrisaw, a couple of guys. But he's saying that up until that point, he was probably about 90% sure that za'darius was gone, and now he's saying, yeah, I'm still greater than 50-50, but he led us to believe that maybe now that he's got new representations, that maybe there's an avenue for the Vikings to keep Za'Darius Smith. He
on an extension
or a
restructured deal,
or however.
I'd be surprised, man. At this point, I'd be really surprised.
Right. He said between the three, Dalvin Cook, Danielle Hunter, and Za'Darius Smith, he says he's expecting Danielle Hunter to be back.
I agree.
He's expecting Dalvin Cook to be gone, and that he's 65-35, that Za'Darius will be gone. But the fact that it's even 35% that he's here is a bit of a move of direction. And he's factoring in that he's got a new agent there. We lost to the Chiefs by 3 last time, didn't we? Well, okay.
That was not more, wasn't
that? No Patrick Mahomes.
The scary thing is, Justin, we've never played Mahomes.
No,
I am petrified. Because though I cheered for him to win Super Bowl, and I did, that was only because they were playing the Eagles. And as someone who supports the Bills from afar, I hate the Chiefs. And I know what Mahomes is about. He's going to be strutting on us, and I'm not looking forward to it. I'm really not. I hope to God we pull a miracle like the Colts did last year. I really hope.
Sarah, this is why we love you. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, yes. He says no disrespect, but you take. I'll take JJ over. I'm just saying it's very, very.
But you also do that with Burrow over Kirk, and it's a bigger difference.
It's a much bigger gap.
Yes.
Davey says Vikings will have to out offense the Eagles defense. Okay, yeah, basically applies.
Yeah, like the Chiefs. And last time I checked, Kirk Cousins is not becoming Patrick Mahomes overnight. Not gonna happen.
San Fran can't score if they have no quarterback. That's true, but. If it was like I said, if Flores can bring the defense to respectability, I agree. If they don't have their quarterback situation, you had asked me in Twitter Spaces earlier, Mike, of the big four, which one I thought the Vikings had this chance, and I said San Francisco. One, because I think Philly is like next to no chance. I think Kansas City is next to no chance. So that just leaves Cincy and San Francisco, and I'll take the home team, but we'll see what their quarterback situation is. Now, obviously, if a couple weeks from now we trade Kirk Cousins for Trey Lance, so I'll change my opinion. But I digress.
I do want to add this, Justin, because I cannot end this video without mentioning Sam Darnold somehow. I'm petrified of the Niners with Sam Darnold at quarterback. People forget what he did to us with Carolina.
Yeah.
With Kyle Shanahan, he'll do something.
Beat us. All the backup quarterbacks beat us, man.
But especially with Shanahan behind the wheel, like he'll make him look really good, like closer when he came out of USC. I could see it.
If Mike McCarthy can bring in, who was that dude from Dallas that beat us?
Cooper Rush.
If Mike McCarthy can beat us with Cooper Rush, I'm pretty sure Shanahan can beat us with Brock Purdy.
Oh, absolutely.
Or Sam Darnold, for that matter.
Well, I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a good quarterback, but we're not. He might be injured this year.
All right, I think I'm going to wrap here in just a second. Kirk has the most weapons or close to it. He should be better. Yes, he should be. No more excuse. We're going to wrap it on this. We're going to wrap it on that. We all know most everybody know how I feel about Kirk Cousins. I think he's a good, not great quarterback. I think he's a top 10 to 12 quarterback in this league. And being that he's top 10 to 12 on a planet full of 7.3 billion people, that means anybody who says Kirk Cousins sucks is a moron. Sorry. Now, anybody who says that Kirk Cousins is in the same category as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts, sorry, I'm going to call you moron there too. Here's my point. Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, he broke the mold, but he fits that same mold.
He had a great team.
Good, not great quarterbacks. You have to have a gigantically perfect team around them. Yes, if Cousins was in San Francisco, I would like that team's chance. The Vikings don't have the offensive or defensive lines that San Francisco has, which is exactly what Kirk Cousins' biggest weaknesses are. Now, does that mean I think he sucks? No. Am I out on him after this season? Yes, because I don't think this team can win a Super Bowl with him. Doesn't mean I think he sucks. Doesn't mean I hate him. It just means I think that, he's coming off his best season. Absolutely. And we give him credit for that. But yes, the defense was the bigger problems last year, but that doesn't absolve Kirk from his flaws, and it doesn't absolve him from 4th and 8. Is 4th and 8 the reason they lost that game? No. But he showed you who he is. And at the end of it, Your ceiling with Kirk Cousins is the is the divisional round of the playoffs, unless you get absolutely lucky. And for anybody that wants to say, well, let's rebuild the defense. Let's get the average defense to just average. We had an average defense in 18 and 19. And we got to the divisional round of the playoffs and missed the playoffs. Those were our 2 years with average defenses. And guess what? Even if you think that Kirk Cousins is going to be able to repeat last year, this coming season, by the time you fix the defense, Kirk Cousins is going to be 37 and he's not going to be the same guy. So to me, I just want a new quarterback, not because I think he's the problem. I just don't think he's the solution either. I don't mind him for 1 more year. I wouldn't mind if they traded him and got capital in return. But at the end of the day, we've seen how far this team can go with him. And by the time you fix all the other things around this team, he's going to be too old. So, but like what I said in my short about what Tom Pelissero reported about Bryce Young was the only guy that they were going to trade up for, that tells me a good thing. It tells me that this team is finally saying to itself, we can't just sit around in the mid to late teens, mid to early 20s and just wait for a quarterback to fall. If we want one, we're going to have to go get one. But I also like the fact that they didn't trade up for a guy that they didn't totally believe in. So having said all that, like I said, as far as the point I was making here, he has the most weapons or close to it. He should be better. No more excuses. I don't care what the defense does or doesn't do.
Or the O-line. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
It's over as far as excuse making goes. Yes. If you lost in the wild card round 45-42 and you did everything you could and the defense did absolutely nothing, am I going to say Kirk was the reason they lost or you can't win with Kirk? No, I'm not going to say it like that. But what I am going to say is even if you have an average defense, why do we think we keep talking about the big 4? We don't think we can win any of those 4 games. And it's not because it's just Kirk. It's about Kirk, the defense, everything. I'm just ready to move on. I don't want a guy making market value. I want a quarterback on a rookie contract. That's just me. What's your final thoughts, Mike, before we get up out of here? We've been on for I thought we were going to go for 30 to 45, and of course we'll be at 120. But give me your final thoughts. We get up out of here.
No, I do want to touch on Ivan Pace, but if not, it's okay.
Oh, real quick on Ivan Pace. Yes, I like the dude. I think he's going to make the team. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I like the kid, and I think he's getting way too much heat for some draft analysts. Be like, nah, he's not even going to make the team. I don't know why you guys are so whatever. Well, yeah, tell me your thoughts on Ivan Pace real quick.
Dante, put some respect on his name. I don't appreciate the hate. There you go. It's not nice. Be nice to him. He's not a star. I don't think he's good in coverage. Last time I checked, the only linebacker I wanted the Vikings in coverage is Asamoah anyway. I'd like a guy who actually hits the quarterback at linebacker. Some physicality would be nice. So I think he makes the team too. But back on to Kirk, because we'll end it there. I mean, it's only fitting we end it with Kirk Cousins. Like you said, Justin, good, not great quarterback. That's not offensive. It's the truth. The truth hurts. He's a good, not great quarterback.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me.
Like the people that still want to compare him to Joe Burrow, like, kick rocks, honestly. Kick rocks. But I'll leave it on this. Like you said, Justin, even if we lost 45-42, right, next season at the wild card weekend, just move on. Well, what are we doing here? Then if we are allowing 45 points in a wild card round, you need to start over. You need to start over. If that actually happens, end it. If they do not get past the divisional round, get rid of Kirk Cousins, please. That's not offensive. It's just what needs to happen at some point. Unless he goes to the NFC title game, I want to move on. And it's not because I hate Kirk. I think he's a good quarterback. I have his jersey. But it's time to move on. If you know what's right for yourself, sometimes you got to walk away. And it's just one of those things. That's why I love this schedule. Because he has no excuses. We play all the good teams. Everything we want to see, we will see. Sink or swim, Kirk. No in between. No excuses. I'm done with it.
Dylan, thank you for the kind words. Hit the ice bath, boys. Thanks to everyone that inspired you to get into this because you really know how to do this dang thing. Well, I appreciate it, man. I'll say this. I just saw a tweet from Mike. It was right after the week 3 game against Seattle in the 2021 season. And I said, Mike, I'll come on with you. And you know what? A couple weeks later, he said, hey, Justin, why don't you come back in? There's, got somebody here who can't make it. And by the middle of that season, I was doing the preview shows with him on the old channel last year. Finally said, you know what? I got to start doing my own thing here. Not because I'm not going to still do stuff with Mike and on the group channel, which is now Purple and Skull Media, but then got introduced to Rap and Dave and G, and of course SK. So I got to throw some love to those guys. What's up, G Mac? Hit the rewind button because we're just about to get up out of here. So,
yeah,
sorry,
just a little late.
Just a little bit. We've been on for an hour and 20, and I got to go eat something before I pass out. But thanks again for joining. Hit them like buttons. And by the way, if anybody up in here that doesn't already subscribe, check out Mic'd Up Podcast. That's Mike's channel. It's in the description of this. So, no, you can't post. You can't post in the chat here, so never mind. It's in the description. So check out Mike's channel. His buddy and him, both named Mike, hence why it's called Mic'd Up. Talk NFL as well as NHL. So give those guys a shout. Check out some of their videos. I know that you guys cover the whole NFL and the whole.
Yes, NFL, right? I want to get this off my chest. Thanks for throwing it to me, Justin. I appreciate it. Yep. Anyone here that subscribed to my channel, we have 118 subscribers, and I know a few people subscribed out to the draft party. Please feel free to leave a comment on my most recent video. Heck, any of my videos on a video you want us to do. Me and Mike will crank one out within 48 to 72 hours of that idea. I've been thirsty for ideas. Please leave a comment down below on any of my recent videos. Heck, if you're a hockey fan, leave a video idea about the playoffs. I would love to talk more and have some ideas from fans. Much appreciated.
Also got to throw one more shout out, and that's to what is now called First and SKOL Media with Dave, Darren, who've done tool bloggers for a long time. They used to be affiliated with Climb in the Pocket. Now they've got their own channel. They just started, and they already passed me. They already over 600. I'm still trying to get to 600, but congratulations, Dave, you, Tyler, and Darren, already hitting the 600 mark. You guys know Dave, and if you don't, yes, I'll put it right up there. Thank you, Norris. I appreciate you. Two old bloggers, that's correct. Watching those guys for a long time as well, so I got to say, and I've managed to do a couple of shows with Dave and connected with him and have tossed around some ideas, and I'm going to be doing some stuff with him in the future as well. So I know I would toss it over to you, so now we're kind of bouncing back and forth here, but I got to show some love to my guy Dave as well. Like I said, middle of October, Mike was sick and we couldn't do our normal show, and I finally said, all right, I'll just turn it on and go by myself. Don't watch that video. It was utter trash. It was so bad. The lighting was terrible. I'm bumbling and stumbling all over the place, but at the same time, you got to start somewhere. But most importantly, you want to say thank you to everybody that's in the building and that has subscribed to us and watched us do this, because you guys make it so much fun when we do these lives. I mean, when I do lives with Rap, the chat, I don't know how Rap keeps up with it.
I don't know either.
His chat is hopping all the time. There's usually 30, 40 people in the building all making comments and stuff. But you guys are what we do this for. We're all Vikings fans, regardless of whether we love Kirk Cousins or hate Kirk Cousins or just kind of in the middle on Kirk Cousins. We all just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die. But we got into this thing to do this. Yeah, yes, there you go. Just one before we die. But at the same time, we do this for you guys, and you guys make this fun. We did shows where we literally had 1 to 2 people watching and nobody commenting. You know, those were the days where we would just be like, okay, we said everything we wanted to say. We're 7 minutes into this, and oh yeah, there's nobody here watching us right now. So got to throw some shout outs to everybody in the chat right now as well. Let's see. I'll be kind and rewind. Yes. I had this earlier, but Davey had it right. Kirk being good isn't such a bad thing. He just doesn't throw a ton of picks. No, that's true too. Great show. Appreciate you, man. Norris says, Dave, show Justin some love on your show. Oh, he does. He does all the time. Every time. Just subscribe to my guy. All right, we got you one, Mike. We got you one. So there you go. But
please leave a comment down below on a video idea. Please, I beg, please.
And like I said, as always, I dropped a short this morning, which was a clip of what I did with SK last night with Doogie on breaking down the news about za'darius Smith firing. It's in about firing his agent. Thank you. If you all hit the like button, and anytime we do a video, whether it's a live or a short, hit the like button for me and leave a comment. Even if you totally disagree with everything I said, call me an idiot. Well, don't call me an idiot, but tell me why you disagree with what I had to say. And at the end of the day, thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap it at this. Mike, anything else we got to before we get up out of here?
I want the Vikings to go on a deep playoff run this year, and that's all I ask.
I just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl just once before we die. That's all we ask. And since Dave's in the building, what do we say on the way out, Mike? What do we say? Just say SKOL Vikings.
SKOL?
SKOL Vikings! That's for you, Dave.